Alright good people, ORC is back for the final 3 rounds of the season. I originally wanted to upload this video last week, but due to the recent announcement of the ORC shutting down, I had to make a video on that and delay this one. However, this video I didn't throw in the bin completely, so you're still getting this one. Now, as I just mentioned a few seconds ago, we are going to be looking at how I did in the final 3 rounds of my debut ORC season. We've already done 9 rounds, 3 more to go in this 12 round season. To quickly summarize how I did in the 9 rounds before, basically in the first few rounds, I was really good. I picked up a win, consistently on the podium, and I was leading the championship by a decent margin. In the last few rounds, however, I did slightly dip in performance one by one, round by round. I still picked up a podium, however, I did still struggle to keep up the pace and consistency that I had in the first few rounds. And whilst I am the championship leader still heading into the final 3 rounds of the season, my championship gap has shrunk since my early season performances. If you want to find out in a little bit more detail on how I did in the first 9 rounds, I will link a playlist to all of the previous videos I made about my championship runs somewhere in the top right corner right now. And before we get into my runs, if you enjoyed this video at any point, then don't hesitate to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel as well, and also make sure to hit that bell button to be notified of future videos. I'll be trying to upload more regularly, once per week, and also make sure to follow me on all my other social media profiles. So now, let's get into this. 3 rounds to go, 3 very different rallies coming up, and the first of the 3 coming up will be the Central European Rally. Full tarmac, both wet and dry conditions expected, so let's have a quick look at how I did. Now, just like in the previous video, I will now be doing this sort of voiceover thing where basically I'm now commentating live on my runs as you're watching them right now, so the footage that I'm watching right now as I'm talking is the same that you're watching on the actual YouTube video. So we start stage 1 here at CR. The first 2-3 stages are expected to be fully dry. Wet conditions will come later, so we are on the dry tires at the moment, and well, my main objective here, as I am the championship leader, would be to obviously finish very well, do the best job I can, but I'm not so much worried about finishing first or second. Maybe like my main concern here is finishing ahead of my main championship rival, because whilst at the moment heading into CR there are 1 or 2 more drivers that are mathematically in contention, realistically it's just me versus one other guy, and right there, as you saw a few moments ago, somehow got a corner cut penalty. Don't know how I did that, but either way, we finished 5th fastest in stage 1. It was an alright time. That corner cut penalty did cost me quite a bit of time. I could have been like 3rd fastest without it, so an alright start, you could say. Now through the hairpin here, still dry conditions, still dry tires, but yeah, my main concern is finishing ahead of my main championship rival, who goes by the name of Joker, aka Himray, in the championship standings, which you will see a little bit later. But as we go through here, nothing too dramatic happened in the first few stages. Well, apart from that, going in way too hard, hitting the wall, making a lot of mistakes. The pressure is slowly getting to me right here, but we do finish just under 8 minutes, stage 2, and we finish 3rd fastest in stage 2, so an alright time. And now heading into stage 3. Now stage 3 is going to be dry, stage 4 is going to be wet, so here we are running the wet tires, and they're sending it again a little bit too hot, almost losing it. Now you do have a little bit less grip on the wet tires in the dry compared to having all dry tires in the dry, a little bit wobbly there. But after having done practice, I come to the conclusion that I lose less time by using wet tires in the dry compared to using dry tires in the wets. So an alright time, stage 3, 5th fastest, still not great. Now we're heading into the wet, and not even 10 seconds in, already off the road. Not great, but still, you know, a lot of time to make up. However, it will go from bad to worse here, as I would clip the bush physics of the ORC. Not sure if it's meant to be like that in real life or not, but either way, I did manage to do a cool save. However, it did cost me a lot of time, going a little bit wide once again, losing even more time to my main rivals, and I went off the road here once again. And even though I did have about 1 billion trillion wide moments like here, I somehow still went 3rd fastest in that stage. I had absolutely no idea how I still managed to get 3rd fastest in this stage. If I didn't have those mistakes, I genuinely could have picked up a stage win, but you know, it is what it is. And now heading into the power stage, where we can get some extra points here. We really got to make sure we don't do an absolute bottle job. Now we are back in dry conditions, however I did an absolute bottle job myself. My brain wasn't braining during the latest service area, and I forgot to swap over to the dry tires, evident by the fact that I went wide here. So this stage was done on very worn, very used, wet tires. Honestly, I have no idea how I did that, but I pulled an absolute bottle job, an absolute skill issue from my side, and yeah, it was just a case of going really slowly or sending it way too hard into the corners, and it was an absolutely disastrous stage 5. We finished 10th fastest in that stage, and we finished 4th in CER. Now, 4th in CER, on one hand, you know, it's an alright result, you could say, you know, just outside the podium. However, we did finish 2 positions behind our main championship rival, both in the overall standings. And in the power stage, we were quite a bit behind. My main championship rival did score points in the power stage. We unfortunately did not, so he did lose even more ground in the championship. And now with 2 rounds to go left of the season, we are still the championship leader, yes, but the gap has now shrunk to 6 points. Himray is now only 6 points behind me. I'm on 166, he's on 160. There are 2 other drivers mathematically in contention, however, because those 2 other drivers joined middle of the season, realistically it is between me and the other Hyundai driver, so it's a 2-horse race from this point onwards. Pressure is slowly starting to build now, one by one, piece by piece, as we head into the penultimate round of the season in Rally Estonia. We now go from full tarmac to full gravel. Again, mixed conditions expected with dry and wet conditions expected, so let's see how I do on gravel. Now, Estonia, both in terms of distance and time spent on all 5 stages combined, it is one of the shortest, if not the shortest stage, rally, one of the shortest, if not the shortest rally in this season. I don't know why I said stage instead of rally. I was just saying stage a lot. But okay, either way, we start stage 1 here in lovely Estonia, my neighbors. Now, stage 1, for the most part, was fairly clean. Nothing too dramatic. We were pushing the limits, sometimes a little bit over the limit, as you see there. A little bit wide there. I'm waffling my words, apologies. This final section was very twisty, very tricky, but we managed to get through all of it fairly cleanly. We were 3rd fastest in that stage, however we were like 10 seconds slower than the guy who won stage 1. I don't know how I did that, or how he did it, sorry, but we move on. Stage 2 now, again, for the most part, nothing too dramatic happened. 45 seconds for split 1. That's how you can tell that the stages here are quite short and quite fast. Overshot in here a little bit, heading into this square right. Almost hit the sign there, but again, nothing too dramatic. Stage 2 finished, again, 3rd fastest overall after the first 2 stages. I completely waffled my words again. English is not my first, so apologies. Starting stage 3 with a very tricky chicane here. Now stage 3, once again, nothing too dramatic. Pushing the limits, again, almost pushing a little bit too over the limits as I almost hit the white hay bale thing. Those things are rock hard solids in the game, so you gotta be careful with those. Stage 4 now is where we hit the wet conditions, and this is where we slowly start to fall down in terms of performance. And here was our first big mistake of the rally, heading into the trees, and once again the bushes pulling me in, spinning me multiple times and losing multiple time as a result. I mean, only went 7th fastest in stage 4, and heading into the stage 5, I didn't do a waffle job with the tires. However, I did have a waffle job in terms of the actual driving, because I pushed over the limits that moment there. Not sure how that happened, as I was trying to turn. I don't know how that was a quarter cup LT. In fact, I was losing a lot more time through that bit anyway before the quarter cup was given. And here was the nail in the coffin, sending it into the rock solid barriers. Another quarter cup LT. Don't know why they give me that, but again, 6th fastest in stage 5. Absolute disaster, and we will unfortunately end Rally Estonia in 5th position, P5. So another consecutive rally without a podium. I've had quite a few rallies recently without a podium, so not a great run at the moment. And whilst we finished in a disastrous P5 at no power stage points, our main championship will finish P2 in the overall leaderboard and picked up a P2 in the power stage, meaning that heading into the final round of the season, we now go from being 6 points ahead of Himray to now 6 points behind, meaning that we are no longer the championship leader for the first time since the opening round of the season in Monte Carlo. Now, however, it's a 2-horse race between me and him, as everybody else is now mathematically out of contention, though I still could mathematically get dropped down to P3 in the overall standings after the final round of the season. So I gotta make sure that if I don't win the championship, then I gotta try and at least maintain that P2 runners-up spot. But ideally, of course, I want to beat Himre and be the Season 2 champion. In CER, the pressure slowly started to build. In Estonia, the pressure started to build even more at a higher rate. And now heading into the final round of the season in Rally Japan, the pressure I think is now at its absolute peak and it might reach to a higher peak during the stages. So we gotta make sure we don't fall to the pressure and gotta make sure that we finish ahead of our main championship rival. Though not just ahead of our main championship rival, we need to actually finish and outscore him by at least 6 points. Actually, we need to outscore him by 7 points, because if we outscore him by 6 points, then we'll be level points, and I think he'll win on countback. So we got to outscore him by 7 points. So let's see how I do in Japan. Now, Rally Japan, we're back on tarmac. A lot more narrow roads and more wet weather is expected for at least actually just over half the rally is expected to be wet weather conditions. So here, for example, we're heading into stage 1 now, a fairly long stage. Stage 2 afterwards is going to be wet, so we are on the wet weather tires to begin with, and it's going to be tricky on these tires, but just like in CER before, I lose a lot less time by using wet tires in the dry compared to using dry tires in the wet, especially that the early stages in Japan are fairly long, so I do need to have the best grip possible. And as you can see, tarmac, but a lot more narrow and a lot more cliffs, drops, barriers. I tapped one there, and a little bit of grass touching there, so I am in fact an actual normal human being. 7 minutes 18 for stage 1. It was an alright stage, not the best in the world, though we did finish second fastest, only 4 seconds behind the stage winner, which is our main championship rival. And pressure slowly started to build there, as in stage 2 we had an absolute bottle job, losing a mountain full of time, going wide once again. Now, if the first 2 rallies that we saw today, CER and Estonia, had a lot of trouble in the latter part of the event, here in Japan, the bottlenecks, the skill issues are already starting to appear in stage 2, as we only finished 5th fastest in stage 2. Stage 3, again, wet conditions, and I went a little bit wide here. How I got a puncture and got a reset penalty is a little bit beyond me, but we lost a lot of time, and we're losing more time as I continue to drive with a puncture, and here I just decided to just fix the puncture, as I figured I'd probably lose more time if I tried to drive at full speed with the puncture. And as a result, stage 3, absolute disastrous, 10th fastest, penultimate stage. Bonnet is wobbling all over the place, and my driving is just not getting better. In fact, it's just probably getting even worse and worse. I try to drive myself up here, but game set now. Had to do a reset penalty. I've got radiated damage as well. I think I got steering problems here as well, as in stage 4 we were only P7, and now heading into the power stage we make a huge mistake once again. And at this point, I think after the first mistake, after the first few mistakes in stage 2, I already knew that our championship was pretty much over, as I continued to just make mistake after mistake after mistake. And well, normally at this point you would feel maybe that the championship is over. Well, I'll be honest, as I said, for me, already after the first few mistakes in stages 2, I already knew that the championship was over. And as I finished the power stage here, I finished 9th fastest in the power stage, and in the overall rally leaderboard for Rally Japan, I only finished in 9th position, our worst result of the season. No points in the power stage, and as a result of that, we unfortunately do not win the championship. Himre did go on to win the Season 2 championship, his 2nd championship in a row. And to add more salt to injury, because of our bottle job in Japan, we actually lost P2 in the Drivers' Championship. We now drop down to P3 in the Drivers' Championship, and that's where we would finish the season, just 2 points behind the runners-up spots. Absolute disaster in the Japan. Now that the season is over, I have really mixed emotions. On one hand, obviously, I wasn't really happy with the final 3 rounds I had, especially Japan. I was not happy at all with my performances. Part of that was down to maybe not doing as much practice as I probably should have or could have, and another part was probably down to the pressure that naturally came with me having been the championship leader for a long time and needing to retain it and so on and so forth. So on one hand, very frustrated with the season that I had, particularly in the end. But on the other hand, I think, for a debut season, winning and only in your second event, leading the championship for so long, being fairly consistent, especially in the first half of the season, I think for a first shot, I'd say it was fairly solid. Obviously, there are going to be those who are going to say I absolutely bottled it, but, I know that, I'll admit it, I had an absolute bottle job, but, third in my first season, I could be all right with that. And if you're wondering in the other aspects of the championship, unfortunately, my team finished at the bottom of the Rally 1 Manufacturers Championship. And here on screen, I'll show you the Rally 2 final standings, so you can have a look at how the Rally 2 drivers did. Now, just because the regular season has now ended, ORC videos will not stop here, as right now, as I'm speaking, the ORC Historic Championship has started, basically to show who is the best at driving the old school cars. And once that is done, the ORC Season 3, the official Season 3, will begin. So I will be making videos on all of those. And if you are interested in joining the Online Racing Championship to compete as a driver or maybe be any other role that is not a driver, be it like a team principal and all that stuff, then I will leave a link to the Discord server down in the description down below. We have now surpassed over 100 members. We are going to have now 3 car classes in the regular season. The Historic Championship has now started. In fact, round 1 will be finishing very soon. I will be making videos on those, of course, so make sure to join now. But I'm going to leave it here. Thank you very much for watching all of these videos. Like I said, if you enjoyed these at any point, then don't hesitate to hit that like button, subscribe as well, hit that bell button to be notified of future videos, follow me on all of my other social media profiles, all will be linked down below. ORC Discord will be linked down in the description down below as well, so make sure to join. But guys, I'm going to leave it here. Next video will be coming very soon. It'll be most likely about real life WRC once again. I will be bringing those back as well. But until the next video, thank you and goodbye.